Welcome back to another start of the episode of 95 South TV with yours truly, King Jacob. Shout out to my man, the other host, Icon, eating his absence. He celebrated his birthday, so man, I hope he's having a lovely birthday, man. And man, we got another sensational episode for you today, man, and none other man than my man Chuck Platinum. Representing
Yes,
the
sir.
NYC. What's going on with you, brother?
Man, beautiful, blessed, happy to be here. Just living and enjoying life, my brother. Another beautiful Sunday, starting of the week. Happy to be here. Pleasure to be on 95 South TV with you, brother. We
No
here.
doubt. No doubt, man. So, man, if you can walk us through, man, for the viewers and for the viewership and the audience, man, who is Chuck Platinum?
Absolutely. I'll be more than happy to share with your audience. Chuck Platinum originally is from the Lower East Side of New York City. I was born there, moved to the Bronx as a young lad, about 5. My dad, DJ Butch SOS, is a DJ, still an active DJ at 70 years old, still out there doing his thing. Learned from him, was inspired by him, and that was the start of my music love, is watching my dad and DJing. And he when I was maybe about 9 or 10, I started fiddling around with the turntables and stuff like that. I wasn't too serious. Then around 12, I used to go visit him, and I did a mix, and he worked third shift, so I used to come to his house real early in the morning, and did this mix. And my dad, just from there, he believed in me. At the same time, started rapping, producing, all of this around the 12 to 15 years of age. My first national appearance was on Showtime at the Apollo back in 1994. My partner in our Uptown Nation, shout out to my brother P. Holler. We started a group back in '92, and yeah, from then I just started my career, and started my independent career, and leading up to now, where we have different entities and assets that pretty much cover every part of the music business and outside of the music business. And that's just what I've been building for the last 34 years, is just where we're at now, just building that independence.
Okay, great, man.
Yes,
So
sir.
you've been putting in work from a young age. So you say your father was a DJ, man,
Yeah.
and that's an interesting thing. So when you say your pops was a DJ, man, a DJ come to mind that was so I'm from South Carolina, right? So
Nice.
one DJ that come to mind that was really buzzing in the Carolinas, man, when I was young. Everybody wanted to know these two DJs, man. I guess because they had some family down here that was pushing it was tapes back then. You know what I
Right.
mean? So how I got introduced to KRS-One, it was by this DJ named DJ Scott LaRock.
Yes.
And follow up DJ Scott LaRock, I got the D Nice tape and the Just Ice tape. You know what I mean?
Nice. Yes,
and
sir.
and and but who really made me want to really kind of put my head on the swivel when it comes to rap, and I thought he was just a cool brother because I didn't hear him cuss, but he was just slicing the competition up, was none other than Rakim, bro.
Yes, my
You know what I mean?
favorite.
Yeah, man. Rakim made me say, man, this guy just sliced these and dissect these up with these syllables and these
Mm-hmm.
metaphors, man,
Yes.
and his vocabulary, man. So, my beginning hip hop era was people like Rakim, man, and I say, no disrespect to any of the pioneers, man, but I heard some of the early stuff, man, but like Rakim and Big Daddy Kane and cats like that, Dougie
Yeah,
and that
those are the
whole,
game changers.
yeah, man,
Yeah,
and,
they changed
and
the to Rakim. He changed the whole. You know, before 1986, they wasn't rhyming with those complex, multi-syllable rhymes, and stuff like that. You know, Kane was there, but Rakim was the originator. You know what I'm saying? He started that. When we heard Paid in Full, that changed the whole perspective on rapping. You know, that's my pinnacle. Like I know of hip hop, of course, prior to 1986, but when that Paid in Full dropped in '87, that changed the game. Then Kane came right back around with Long Live the Kane, and that would change the whole trajectory of lyricism.
Right. And man, just for you, man, with your pop being out on that circuit, man, and dealing when it was graffiti, beatboxing, scratching, and MCing, man, something that I feel like not people have forgot about. They understand, the essence of hip hop, but what this industry has really forgotten about, man. So, in your personal opinion, man, how do we? I ain't know how do we bring it back, but how do
Right.
we have more documentaries and more education on what hip hop really is?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of documentaries out there already. I know that Ice T put out one. He did the art of rap. That's great, DJ. You could go back to backstage and all of those. There's plenty of documented stories and stuff that you could look through the culture. I just think more so people who are here and alive like we are, it's our duties now to, educate the youth. You know what I'm saying? And educate just like I was educated. My father had to educate me. He was not he when I had got into hip hop. My dad was just kind of getting into it. You know what I'm saying? I had been in the hip hop quite a few years. My dad was kind of new to it. He was more he's more of a house DJ. Like he's still active though. You know what I'm saying? Like he's
Uh,
still very active, still DJing and all of that. But he was more in the house scene, that post disco. That's the era my pops came up in. So when hip hop started emerging, I was kind of the one that put him on and put my parents on to the Pacs and Tupac and kind of giving them the history, and then they started catching on from then. So yeah, that's how when now my pop is like he all into it now. But yeah, back then 30 years ago, yeah, I had to. He was kind of green to the culture. You know what I'm saying? He had a few
right.
hip hop records that his boy put him on to, but once we started connecting on a business level, then I started showing him different groups and artists and stuff like that.
Which is pretty damn cool, bro. Which is pretty cool, man. But I would like to say, shout out to the house and the EDM DJs, because what I do know about overseas market, just like you are MC.
Right.
So if you were to send your dad them vocals and he put that EDM or that house mix on it and send it over to London and Turkey and Switzerland, stuff like that,
Right.
ain't no telling what happened. They might be calling for you to come over there. So I tell hip hop MCs, you know, don't really look at house and EDM as something that hip hop shouldn't discover, because they love hip hop as well.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of remixes. Same thing with house. There's a DJ Scratch. He just did a house record using what's the name? What's that song? Lyrics to Go by Tribe Called Quest, and that joint
Right.
is hard. Like that's it's dope. So yeah, it's definitely house music, and all of that's infused in there because house music has a lot of jazz in there, and there was an era where in hip hop we used a lot of jazz and stuff like that. So yeah, I agree with you. Don't cut out house and EDM. All of his music, you know what I'm saying? And they incorporate and infuse hip hop, and we do it too, in hip hop
Mhm.
now.
Mhm. And so I just want to give you your flowers, man. So a song that I've been
Appreciate that.
listening to of yours is "Goodbye 25." Tell me
Oh,
about yeah. Tell me about that creation of that record, and man, tell me about the mindset and what you was feeling when you made that record.
Oh man, that's a good one. So Goodbye 25. When I did that record, it was very intentional. I was coming into the new year with a new mindset. I had been through a lot in the past 5 6 years, just kind of restructuring my life and just adapting to new situations. And Goodbye 25 was like a testimony to myself. It was like, this is where we going into this new year. Our mindset, you know what I'm saying? We building bigger business. This is what we doing, and we was very matter of fact in that song. You know what I mean? So it was basically saying, look, that's why I even designed the cover the way that it is. It looks like a broken mold, right? Of the
Right.
old me and the mindset and the mentality of where I was and things that I had to let go and stuff like that. So that was the mentality when I did that song. It was just I was like I gotta say goodbye to not just 2025, but just I'm changing, I'm evolving, I'm in the gym now. We're gonna accomplish every simple single thing that we want to do, and because I've helped so many people, this year I wanted to be selfish. I wanted to be brand Chuck Platinum as an artist and DJ and stuff. Although I have all my career, I've always kind of like incorporated helping everybody else and kind of shortchanging myself as far as using my own resources for my own skill set. Like, yo, you rap, you DJ, you doing all of this stuff, man. Man, now you gonna go hard for yourself like you went hard for everybody else for the past 25 years. So yeah, that's what Goodbye 25 was about. That's a good song. I was surprised that you brought that one up.
Oh no, man. I actually like the vibe, man. The vibe is very real.
Yeah,
It's a vibe where you just lay back and just listen, but you have to listen to it like 3 4 times. You be like, oh,
facts.
okay then. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So different songs give you different vibe and just to make you think. And man, that's really one of those songs, man.
appreciate that,
You
man.
can you can say is street conscious and is intellectual. You know what I
That's
mean?
facts.
So you know what I
That's
mean.
that's that
So
yeah, that I appreciate you noticing that as well, because that's really what my music is. When you listen to a Chuck Platinum track, I always tease it and say, I'm gonna put a hot beat behind that information, so it's definitely gonna teach you. But that's how I grew up in hip hop too. KRS-One, you mentioned KRS-One and all these guys, they had these hot beats, but the message, you was taught something. I was taught something back in the day. So I try to
mhm.
do that in a cool way so that everybody could listen to my music. It's easily digestible, it's relatable, and it's not too preachy, but it's getting to the point. So I appreciate the acknowledgement on that.
Right. So man, you from NYC, and
Yes, sir.
you got 5 barrels of NYC that you really have to market yourself in, man. So and you came up in a time where the competition was fierce, and so
Absolutely.
man, talk about how you navigated to really market yourself through all those 5 barrels in New York.
Oh yeah, I mean, we had to do it, and we had to take it to the street. You had to prove yourself back then, because it really wasn't no open doors and lanes. Like when I came out, like when I started doing it professionally, it was like 1992, right? So at that time, hip hop was emerging into a whole nother thing. And we was a group. So back at that time, um, we was being molded to be this group, because it was cool back then for the OGs to have a kid group. So that's why you had Crisscross, the youngsters, another bad creation. We fit into that kind of category, right? The kid rappers. But the difference between us and them was we was writing our own bars, right? So once I learned how to write bars, we was writing full songs. I used to go to my grandmom's house and be penning, 3 verses and with no beat or nothing, just kind of in my head, structuring that. So I believe that that right there, we just came from a different era where we had to rehearse. We spent a lot of time rehearsing for shows. We were conditioned back then to get a record deal. You know what I'm saying? Because that's really was the goal. And then when we finally went on the Apollo and the offers started coming, that's when I started thinking about independence, because even as a 16-year-old young man who didn't know much about the industry nor contracts, the math just didn't look good to me. And a lot of situations we avoided because I I didn't like the numbers, and I didn't feel like we needed to be groomed because we went and survived the Apollo. So
Yeah.
I was like, we nice, you know what I'm saying? So by then, and then when everybody saw us on TV, that was it. I really didn't have much to prove after that. It was just like battle after battle. I would go to West 4th Street down in Manhattan, go into ciphers and stuff like that. So like early on in that teenage, like, because my mom's was very lenient, knowing what we was doing in music, I used to go to boroughs and just battle people. That's what I did. That's how you got your name up back then. You didn't have social media, so you got word of mouth by going into the ciphers and really like putting in that pain.
Okay, so man, let's talk about that experience of those ciphers in the park, where you got the MCs and the DJ, and y'all going head to head, and you got all these people around. You got the fly chicks, you got the dudes out, and you got the dudes that what we call street generals that was out there checking out the new up and coming talent, man. So man, talk about that experience, that excitement, and man, in the rush that he gave you.
Yeah. So even in those times, like, it was kind of separate because, remember, like, the rap was going into a transition, right? So, there was a time where the DJ was the star, right? So they had their own battles. That's
Hmm.
when you go back to, Grandmaster Caz's and not Grandmaster Caz, Grandmaster Flash and all of them, battling respectfully. And Caz and them as well on the lyricist level, but in my era, it was a lot more gritty. We talking like lyricist lounge and shit like that. So, you was literally, with this rap shit, you was literally going in the park. You pull up, they be rapping, and then you go in there and you can't be whack. And a lot of times I go in there and I wouldn't even say my written raps. I would go in there and be the freestyle. I would freestyle, and I was known in school. They be throwing out cereal, and I'll put, they do cute stuff like that now, but I was doing that 30 years ago. They would test my skills, and we be sitting in the back of class, and I'd be whatever, throw it out there, and I would rap, and that's how I would do it. But yeah, those times, they was real raw. In New York, it could be a cipher anywhere, and it was just it was mostly the rappers, because it really wasn't like a whole show. It was just like you literally pulled up, and if somebody was in a cipher and you seen them rapping and it was a crowd of people, you go in there and you do your thing, and that's how you got your respect back then.
Okay, cool, man. So man, let's talk about the first time you ever went into a recording booth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's talk about that experience, that experience, that feeling, and
Right.
and do you think you did well, or did you be like, I definitely need some more work?
Nah, when we went in the studio the first time, we had already, we like I said, we was conditioned, right? So I would say from maybe about a month when we went in the studio, because you could hear it, right? So if you go to our album, look up Uptown Nation, the group Uptown Nation, and you listen to Coming Off
Mhm.
Real Smooth, that was literally our first recording in a professional studio. And the crazy thing about it is, back in '92, shout out to my guy Ron Elite, he had a digital studio back then. So like my setup that I got now, where it's pretty simple but it's effective. He had computers and all of that back in '92. You know what I'm saying? So like when you listen to the music back then, it sounds like music now because he was already like on the digital recording and all of that. So by the time I went in the studio, um we had already did the song, we did the demo. So by the time we went in the studio, we knew the words already. You know what I'm saying? Like we already knew that we had practiced and we had knew the words already. So by the time we went in the studio, it was about, I say maybe a couple of months after that. We was already ready. We went in there, we did it one take, and we added, my guy D Ski, shout out to him. We added the gift to Dia, where she's doing very well in life right now as well. And they bought it. We started the track. My brother went first, I went second. Hadia, she was my girl at the time, she went third, and then D Ski just murdered it. So it was like when we went into the studio, they already knew who they was dealing with. Like they was like, yo, these little niggas is, they
Yeah.
they ready to go. You know what I'm saying? Like they already knew. They was putting all their money on us, literally. Like they knew because we already came in there and we wasn't even rapping that long, but we caught on quick. We caught on
Right.
real quick.
Right. So from going into the booth recording your first single, man, walk me through the steps on how fast y'all got motion.
Oh, from from the recording studio to like getting the song out.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So that's an interesting story in itself, right? So all right, so we, we did the songs, right? But it was a whole thing. Even now to this day, it's a whole myth of, what happened during that time. But I would just safely say, because my brother, my brother is no longer here on this. Shout out to my producer Rick Supreme. He's been gone for some time now, so he's not really here to tell his side. But
Hmm.
I believe that he definitely was repping for us, and there was some powers that be that may not have wanted us to get as far as we were supposed to go at that time.
Okay.
And unfortunately, my man, he from the same place we from. He just believed in us, so he really didn't have the know-how or the go-to for the resources. The biggest thing that he did for us was put us on the Apollo. Um, so it took a little while for us to really kind of get that name. I really didn't start getting a name, to be very honest with you, until I went solo. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like till I started doing my solo work, because even as a group, we only went to the studio that one time. And then the rest of the time after we did the Apollo, we were supposed to take those records and take them to the studio. But for whatever reason, we just never we had like 500 songs that we did, and that was the
Wow.
only professional studio session that we did.
Wow.
So that's what drove me to produce and engineer and all of that, because for the first 6 years, basically, I'll say like this: for the first 6 years of my music career, it was like practice. You feel me? It was like from '92 to '98, it was like practice, and then from '98 on, it was like when I started, venturing out and doing my records solo. That's when things started, turning around, because then I was getting my own motion, and I was taking from what we did and like, I'm gonna move this way, and that's the reason why I got all these companies in the first place, because I had to teach myself all of this based on what I went through as a child, and not us getting the leverage because maybe some people may have been scared of success or whatever it is. I can't speak for those people, but because we were children, we basically put our career in their hands, and we was there waiting and waiting for our shot, and we never really got that shot until we went on Apollo. Apollo was our saving grace of how we got noticed and stuff like that. Then they started coming around and offering deals and stuff like that. But yeah, that's how that went. To be transparent.
Okay. Okay. So MC, engineer, producer,
Mm-hmm.
um, all the above. So man,
Yes, sir.
when did you know that you could produce for heavy hitters as far as MCs that was already out there on mainstream media?
Right. Um, To be very honest, like I would say out of all the years that I was doing it, I would say it didn't really happen until I did the record with Cory. You know what I'm saying? So we talking like 2013, 2014. I knew I was working with artists years before that. You know what I'm saying? Like, but as far as like the mainstream, when I started getting with mainstream people, I would say that was like 12 years ago. So mind you, I had been producing from 93. So this is a lesson to people out there. From 93 to 2012 is like when I first got my first break. Like, oh, he's nice. Oh, he got some shit. You know what I'm saying? So it took me
Right,
a
right, right.
long time to start getting those placements. So I say around 2012, shout out to Cory Gunz. He was the first one to be like, yo, and then digging in the crates, you know, they start working with when I started working with AG, that's when it got real serious.
AG and Showbiz, right?
Yes, sir. Shout out to
Okay, so
BITC.
yeah, so talk about that working with AG and Showbiz, man. How did that take you to really to the next level to
Right.
to uh to really put eyes on you?
Absolutely. So shout out to I gotta give big shout out to my brother AG, my Libra brother. AG was really the person who I would say he's the one that ushered me in, right? Because once I got that stamp, he didn't just stamp me as a producer. I'm an accredited A&R on his album Taste of Ambrosia. So, once he trusted me with an A&R position and completely, work with me, because we worked on that album for like 3 years. We worked on that album from 2015 to like 2018 straight. And shout out to the Matrix Studios and all of them. He worked with all of us. He decided to bring it back to the people that showed him love, and he gave us all the opportunity. But he basically came to me and was like, look, I got this album, I got this idea, but I need another set of eyes and ears on it. So, he's a genius, man. He's a super duper legend, and at that moment I learned what it takes and why legends are the way they are and why these creatives are, elite versus people that are just doing it to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because he was the first one. I used to release projects and this and that, and he was the first one who told me, yo, let the universe talk to you. You know what I'm saying? Don't rush the product. When it's ready, you'll know. Be picked. Because I'm like, damn, we working on this for 3 years. You know what I'm saying? Like the time went by, but it went by quick. And it was all of those jewels and stuff like that I just watched, and he allowed me to express my opinions and what we thought of the music. It was records that we chose, the records I thought may not have made the album and stuff like that. But he gave me full reign, and once he did that, that gave me the confidence, because then it wasn't just like him saying it. He accredited me on and made sure that on everywhere is known that I was an official A&R. So that was more than any money could buy, because I had built that relationship 20 years prior. I ain't saying AG nothing, because I was like, I wanted to make sure that my music was up to par with the Showbiz and Lord Finesse and all. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't trying to pitch nothing crazy. Like, all right. So my first impression when he heard what I made for him, he went crazy. And he used both of the beats that I sent him. One didn't make the album. That joint hard too. But the other one did, which was Fort Apache on that album. So yeah, working with him, he taught me patience. He taught me, how to take my time and just, craft and crafting an album from beginning to end, all the way to the distribution, to putting the video. He did all of that. And he did all of that on his own dime, his own pocket, all of that, including making sure I was good, So shout out to AG, man. Shout out the whole DITC, because, shout out to my brother Diamond, OC, Buck, Boogie Blind, Finesse, you know what I'm saying? I haven't met Fat Joe yet, but shout out to, and rest in peace, Big L. But AG, Yeah, AG, he's accredited for changing my life as far as production. Because after that, then we started working with like Flush and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, shout out to AG.
Cool, cool. So man, that's really remarkable, man. That you can really um, that journey, man, where
Yeah,
somebody really noticed you and put some eyes on you, man, and say,
right.
man, let's work, man. Because this day and time, a lot of people don't believe in one another no more, man. And so everybody's on their payola. Not saying
Right.
nobody shouldn't get paid, not saying they shouldn't get paid for their craft, but at the same time, if you can believe in each other, then it can be really bigger than money. It's called legacy. It's called
That's
legendary.
right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
For sure,
Yep.
for sure, for sure, man. So,
Yes,
so
sir.
man, so you you had that journey. So, how many other doors did this open up for you?
Oh man. From there it just kept skyrocketing. Like, I got to work on a song where, we had collaborated with Neo. Like I said, me and Raw Flush got some things going on. It's just opened up so many doors. Shout out to my big bro, Kid Capri. I don't do too many name droppings because I these
Of
are
course.
these are like my this is like my friends, but I mean, they did notice me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Shout out to Salt from Salt and Pepper. She's on tour right now with TLC and In Vogue. She gave me an opportunity to be a part of her, personal DJ squad, you know what I'm saying, and helping promote her records and stuff like that. These people, they didn't have to choose me, to do anything. You know what I'm saying? So even to this day, man, humility is big for me. Like, I'm still, I ain't gonna lie to you, King. I still wake up and sometimes I can't believe that my life is the way it is. And it's not to say that I don't go through hardships, because I do, because I'm believing in myself. So, there's all kinds of things that's thrown at me on a daily basis. But overall, man, I'm just happy to be here. And I'm happy that I can contribute something to the game that's relevant after all of this time. So that's my drive. That keeps me going, just to, be able to serve. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where a lot of people miss with this industry as well, because it's frequency. The key to my longevity is the service. Like, I'm genuinely serving. I've probably did more. Now, this doesn't mean come at me on some free stuff, but I've probably done more free stuff than what I've gotten paid for. And I've made a lot of money in the music industry, but if it's dope and it's something that I could contribute, a lot of times I'll just do it, and we'll see where it lands when we do it. I'm that kind of artist and person. I like to make the product, and then we could talk about the business after we make the product. But I never want to get to a point of making the business, first, and then making the product, because then to me it gets corny, right? Then it's not culture anymore. So I always like to do the
Right.
product first, and then we could work out the logistics through and through, because I'm very thorough with the business. But let's get the product done. Let's do something cool. Let's do something different. Let's change the game on something. Let's take a chance. And then we could figure out all the paperwork and all that later. That's standard. But let's create. Let's make something happen. That's the magic, is making it happen for me.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And then what a lot of people don't realize this day and age, the money that you ask for up front, it's gonna be nothing close to the back end money. You know,
Oh
we we
yeah,
we
no,
we talking about back end money that's gonna get you paid until the day you die, and
that's
then
right.
that's gonna go to your estate and your legacy, so your kids
Yes,
can continue to get paid. And
correct.
so this game, you got to have your head on the swivel, and you got to think like Chuck Platinum is his own Fortune 500 company, and so that's how you got to think about this game. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Chuck Platinum
It's
is Chuck Platinum is just to vibe off of what you said. To piggyback off of that, Chuck Platinum is a brand by itself. That name right there, that name is a
Right.
registered trademark. You know what I'm saying? So nobody can use that name. Nobody can use my likeness. That's why I have a different. I don't worry about AI. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that and my likeness and all of that because there's things in place to protect that, and that's the part that people don't
Right.
understand about the business is that when people start noticing you, like we're having that conversation, right? That's when you got to
Mhm.
say, okay, I have a likeness. And everybody has, you don't have to be known. Your being is your likeness, right? But once you start
Right.
becoming, your likeness starts becoming an asset, oh yeah, we got to protect that. So that's another lesson.
Right.
Protect your likeness.
No doubt. No doubt. No doubt, man. No doubt, man. So, man, you you got some new material out right now, right?
Yes, yes, yes. I got
Okay.
it.
So the creation, the progression of getting up to putting out this new material. Because sometimes people like, when you gonna put this out? When you gonna put this out? But people don't
Right,
understand it's a process of putting out what we call new magic. You know what I
right.
mean?
Just
It's a
repeat the
process,
question a
and
little
talk
bit.
about that process.
All right, just repeat the beginning of it because you was breaking up a little bit in the first part of your question. I just
Okay.
want to make sure I'm answering it correctly.
I said that you got a new project out right now. So talk about the progression in getting to put out the new project. Cause sometimes people be like, man, it's been a few years. It's been three, four
Right.
years. He or she ain't putting out nothing. So talk
Yeah.
about that progression leading for you to put out something different for the people.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, with me, fortunately for my fans, they don't have to wait too long, right? Because I'm always creating something. So with said brand, right? I might
Right.
I might produce an album for rapping, or I might make an instrumental project, or I might DJ and get on the radio. So there's a loop of talent, but the goal specifically because you asked about the musical part. Um, you know, everybody that knows my brand knows that I'm gonna deliver some quality, right? So, for instance,
Of
like
course.
my last real album, well, like an album to me was Hip Hop Evangelist. So I did that in 2019, right? And from 2019 on till last June, I have released music consistently, right? But
Hmm.
I don't consider the little EPs that I released like 45 and Curse of a Genius and all of these were just to hold people off while I'm creating my magnum opus, which is my album Timing Is Everything. Um there's just a certain caliber and level of love and care that I put into my music, especially when it comes to the lyricism and me telling the story. And sometimes that takes me a long time, especially when I'm putting something together. Like my album Hip Hop Evangelist, it took me 7 years to do that album, right? Because you know I'm living what I'm talking, and when I feel like that, it's time to cut it off, I cut it off. So I'm a different type of artist. Like I don't make get single song. A song could happen to be a single because I like it to be, but I don't go after. That's my magic, is that people are getting me in real time. So like even when I created For the Summer, I didn't I didn't think about it. I woke up one day and I said, you know what? I haven't rapped in a while. Let me do these songs real quick. And I got in the studio and I created the vibe, and then I rapped over it or sung over it or whatever I felt like doing over it. I did the cover. I sent it to Empire. They took it and I released it, and then everybody vibed off of it. So when it comes to me, I don't really have no standard. The standard is the music, and I've put in enough
Right.
work and enough albums. And this is from the people standpoint. I never speak for myself. Only that I'm just giving you the data from the people. When they get the food, sometimes it's gonna take grandmama a little longer to cook that food, but when you get that soul food and you sit down and you eat that plate, you gonna be like, damn, I miss them greens, man. Nobody make them greens like you, Chuck. Damn, that turkey juicy, man. I
Yeah.
was missing. So they're gonna wait. That's just an analogy, but they're gonna wait till next Thanksgiving to get that, because they know when they come over to grandpa house, or they come over, they get them slab of ribs or whatever you eating on, they know it's gonna be good. You know what I'm saying? So just see, there you go. Shout out to Radio Zero in the building. Shout out to Mo Fahari. Um, so that's my thing. My music is soul food. So when it's chefed up and I feel like it's seasoned to perfection, I'm gonna taste it. All right, this is good. Let's throw it out there.
Okay, okay, my man. That's what I'm talking about. So another question that comes to mind.
Yes, sir.
I tell people that a lot of these artists nowadays don't know how hard the grind was during the analog era, and that's why they see artists like yourself who can mix the analog and the digital era up
Right.
together and get way more traction than people that's just accustomed to the digital era. So
Mm-hmm.
talk about how you've been able to mix that gumbo pot up with the analog and the digital era.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a fantastic question, and there's been a lot of fantastic questions. I'm loving this interview. Um, So I always been a person who, once we got into technology, we got into it, right? So, um, you know, from the techniques, having to set up compressors, understanding compression back then. My father was real big on sound and making sure that things were clear. And, he would be on my ass about that too. Like, yo, I remember being in parties and he'd be like, yo, I hear feedback, break it down and do it all over again. There better not be a hum and nothing. It gotta be clear. So, when you have a certain standard from a kid, it's like, you can only put, high quality things out. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's just where I'm at with it, with anything. You know what I'm saying? It's just making sure that the product, and now we look at it as product, right? And make sure that we look at it as what we're doing. So going from the analog, you know, that was the learning stage, right? Because we had to do everything by ourselves. And then we had to figure it out, and we had to be super creative, because in your mind, you may wanted to do something on the beat, but maybe you had to overdub it on the tape or something like that, or do something, to get there. Now, I got everything at my fingertips. It's easy. So even as an old head, I embrace technology, because technology, I'm actually writing a book about this, called The Human Algorithm. You know what I'm saying? Because technology has been my best friend for years. I remember telling people, even when we was listening to CDs, 98, 99, when I was making waves on AOL and all of that, I told people, I said, yo, waves and MP3s are coming, and it's gonna be the end of the CDs. And what happened? They started coming out with MP3 players. It was P to P, person to person, sending
Yeah.
LimeWire and all of that. And I knew it, but it was all a game. And I understood then that things will be created, to so now we got streaming, right? So
Right.
it was all meant to get here. And I think once people understand that part, you'll be less afraid of technology, understanding that things are made to evolve. You know what I'm saying? And, because we're always looking for easier and convenient. But I'm just blessed that I did come from an analog place, so I can appreciate the digital and not the other way around. The digital is trying to learn, y'all don't understand why the frequencies or why we use certain plugins, right? Because they're emulating something that was naturally made through transistors and stuff like that. Those are stuff that you'll never have. It's always going to be an emulation, It's you understanding exactly why you're doing what you do. And that should be in anything that you do. So to answer your question, that's how I survived 34 years from analog to digital, because we was on it. And we, even as a 47, 48-year-old man, I want to still continue to go with technology. You know, I'm totally not against it. Now, am I going to be producing records with AI? Probably not. You know what I'm saying? But will I take a riff or something like that and put it in the AI engine and see what it sounds like and maybe chop it up my own way? Maybe so. Because, you
Right,
know,
right, right,
there's
right,
things
right.
are here to help us, you know? So yeah,
Yeah.
that's to answer your question. That's what, you know, how I survived is just, you know, being open to it, and continuing to be open to the technology.
So Chuck Platinum, man, you know you about to be my man 50 grand since we had this interview. Trust and believe that. And
I love it.
I'm gonna say this to you. I'm gonna say this to you, man. And I'm gonna say shout out to Radio Zero. I got your interview coming too. I'm gonna definitely tap in with you for sure. And I'm gonna say this, man. I hear a lot of artists like Snoop, Ice T, Q-Tip, um, you know, people like Luda, people like Rakim and Coogee Rap, and they
Right.
talk about this streaming and how much money it has taken out of an artist's pocket.
Right.
And so, do you feel like they have a valid point, or do you feel like a lot of the old heads don't really understand streaming and why
Uh
it's so important?
yeah, I think they just, you know, they not seeing the bigger picture of it. And I explained it on a post of mine a couple of months ago that, you know, and I won't say, you know, they just don't understand the value of, because there's pros, right? And the reason why it's all a pro, and all we're doing is just making sure that we're fighting for the right things, right? Which really is, when you're talking about the music and that part of it, it's really about fighting for the balance and making sure that everybody is taken care of fairly, right? So, for example, you have physical copies, right? So physical copies were tapes, 8-track, CDs, stuff like that. This is what the
Right,
record labels were originally made for, to make these said vinyls and all of this product, right? So they already knew then that the when MP3s came and digital, they already knew the transition. They acted stupid, but they already knew. That's why all of the Spotify's and all the labels, we just finding out that the labels are part of Spotify and all of that. You didn't think that they had their hand in all of the technology first?
of course
No.
they did.
You got to know how to play the game. They already knew. They created, they had to figure it out. Because what they didn't want you to do is start, the thing was, is they didn't want you to peer it, right? So they had a problem with that Napster and LimeWire, because, oh, you wait, you ain't getting, nobody's getting paid from this. So once they figured out the system and they developed on how to get paid from that, then this is where streaming and all of that develops from, right? So the thing is that, so yeah, everybody's talking about, oh yeah, we don't get paid for streams and all of that. But you have to, when it comes to that kind of math, you have to think about it economically, right? So how I explained it on the post is, every artist, think about it, right? We have a system now that every single artist has to get paid for, right? So when
Right.
you stream your music and you put it up there, they got to pay you some kind of royalty, some kind of, you know, it could be a digital copy, right? Or it may be a stream. The reason why, I'm gonna make a long story short, the reason why the OGs are mad is because they're not looking at it correctly. You have to look at streaming as passive income. There's nothing that you have to do to get that. Now, the only ones that I would say have a valid argument are those who are in grandfathered contracts that are old, and maybe their contracts were never renegotiated for digital, because that's valid. Most artists that are still in their deals may have deals that are binded by physical copies, and physical copies are not relevant enough that it's a main way of artists getting music. So that's why record labels pull back on the budgets and all of that, because what are they going to advance you with? Some streaming money? No. So what they do is, that's why 360 deals and all of that was created, because it has to be some kind of balance. If every artist right now they want $1 a stream, if every artist got $1 a stream, your music wouldn't be worth nothing. It'd be like that currency. The dollar is barely worth. Why? Because we're in a deficit right now. We're in a multi-trillion-dollar deficit. So the dollar, what I'm saying is that when you deal with performance rights organizations, a lot of artists don't understand that Congress is involved in this. And this is what we're fighting for. We are fighting for more, but because we are in a streaming era, there has to be some type of balance where it's not killing inflation and it's not taking away from our musical value based on that, because it has to be some kind of weighted value so that everybody could get paid and the music is worth something. So to answer your question, they just don't understand that part, and you have to be in a business model of understanding the music business to understand how valuable streams are. Now, that's just the monetary value, right? Now, before, when we were promoting records locally, you had to get records pressed. You was going region to region. The streaming is beautiful because now we have algorithms to take your music that you don't even know about and take it to another country. So now all you have to do is really put the music out and get your analytics, and now you can truly understand where your music is making noise. So maybe you could target these people. And if you take the data and do something with it, who knows? Maybe you could start a tour in Turkey or something like that, or some place where they're really feeling your music out there. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
That's the other part of it, of the benefits of streaming. So I they just got to learn the business today, and they won't feel so hurt about the stream, especially an artist like Snoop that's getting billions. Now, if they not benefiting from it because they in a deal and they still not getting no royalties, then yeah, I could understand why artists is upset. But
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah, this is my thing. Like, you've been in the industry 34 years.
Yes,
So
sir.
if you say, well, Jacob, Universal wanted to give me a deal for 10 million, it's a label deal, but they want 5 albums.
Right.
So I'm gonna say, well, Chuck, I understand that. That's fine, but your art is your equity.
Correct.
So therefore, if they want your equity, then let's negotiate where you get 3.7% equity into Universal.
That's
See,
right.
see the thing about this music business, people got to start looking at this music business as a corporate structure. You got to start
Correct.
looking, because music is intellectual property. So intellectual property is just like home equity.
That's
And
the
so
same thing. It's the same thing.
yeah, man. Yeah,
Yes,
man.
sir.
So when I try to have these conversations with a lot of artists, they be like, "Man, what in the world are you talking about?"
Yeah, they don't
So
understand. They think it's about the music and going to the studio and getting high, going to the studio and producing the music. They
yeah,
don't get
man.
the. They'll get. Yeah.
So when you come at an Epic or a Universal or a Def Jam like that, they're gonna be like, "Man, this guy team is very structured, very smart. They
Correct.
understand. See, they understand financial literacy."
Right.
And,
And they
and,
understand
and
negotiation.
right. And so they're not gonna do nothing but put the money they gave you and the return off their investment is going to go back into the stock market. So if you really understand that most of these companies that's been around for 30, 40 years are already public traded companies,
That's correct.
then you understand why you can ask them for 2 point. 7% equity inside the company because you're
Right.
already a public traded company.
That's correct. That's correct. Everybody could be invested if they really. You brought up a very valid point, and that's why, people. This is what Chuck Platinum is all about, is ownership. You know what I'm saying? Is
Right.
That's what it's all about. That's what my story is all about. You know, is I refused 30 years ago to put my name and likeness into the hands of a major corporation because I didn't feel like I was, you know, I felt like I was worth more, but I felt like I didn't know enough to go ahead and sign my life away and allow my mother to do it. You know what I'm saying? So we had to look beyond being broke in the Bronx. You know what I'm saying? Like we had to look at the long term, because if we didn't look at the long term, I probably would still be stuck in a contract. There's artists, all our favorite artists, 99% of them did not get paid from never seen a royalty check from these major corporations. And that's, you said the key word. These are major corporations. They are corporations just like any other multi-billion-dollar corporation. So when they invest in you, they are looking at you as unless somebody in these days, you gotta have some strong team to be fighting for you if you're gonna go through that major way, because it ain't about discovery no more. It's about who are you influencing, how many people are you influencing, and how can we get a piece of that pie. And if you don't know how to negotiate, it wouldn't even be worth you going out there. You would be better off, because there's so many platforms, right? And the key is the outsourcing these days, right? So
Right.
you and I, King Jacob, could go out there, right? And it don't matter who, what, where, why, and how. Just you being you and your likeness. If you invest in yourself in the right platforms in the right way, the same people that may be discovered from a major label will discover you the same way. Now, if you get on these platforms and think you're not going to pay for no advertisement or nothing like that, and you ain't got no drive, then you going to be at the bottom of the barrel. You going to be, you might get a couple of hundred followers or something like that.
Right. Right.
But if you looking at yourself as the brand, you ain't going to need no major. Then they going to come to you. And then when they come to you, because they got that bat phone, right? You be like, damn, how they found my number? That's when you know you saying something, because then they come looking for you because you done made that noise. That's just how it is. And then you get yourself a team and you put yourself in a negotiation plate with this. We don't have to get jerked anymore. Pause.
Right. 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 Of course. Of
No
course not. Of
excuse for
course.
that.
You're right. You're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right, man. So, man, we're about out of time, man. So I want you
Yes,
to give
sir.
your last shout outs, man, and tell people what you got coming. Then we'll get out of here, my brother.
Absolutely, man. First of all, thank you to my parents. Is always first and foremost to God. Thank you to my team, Radio Zero, Mo Fahari, my PR, Marissa, MJ. I definitely appreciate everything that you do for me and the team. And Ariana Records. We got Well Made Choices album dropping soon. We got Beats in the Attic Volume 4 and For the Summer out right now. We got a couple of other special projects coming up, and look for me on Saturdays, 8 to 10 p.m. I'm DJing Record Breakers Radio. We do the Indie Heat Show, and then each and every Monday, 8 to 9 p.m., I'm DJing on Crate Runner Radio on iHeart Radio. We're doing the Indie Heat Hour. So, you can lock in with me at Chuck Platinum. Google me, Chuck Platinum. You can find everything you want to know from me, and I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. We thank y'all for tuning in and tapping in with us, man. King Jacob, Chuck Platinum, 95 South TV. Peace and blessings. We out. Have a productive week. Just remember, man, it's lessons in your blessings. We out of here.
Yes, sir.